Hello and welcome to the Big Cat Sanctuary. My name's Emma and today we're here with the lovely keeper Abby, and we've got Harry behind the camera. Say hello, Harry.
Hello everyone.
And we are here celebrating Women's History Month and we're going to show you some of our fantastic female felines. So today we are here with Zizi and Abby. Why don't you tell us a bit about Zizi?
So Zizi is our 16-year-old female Amur leopard. So she is one of the absolutely fantastic ladies of the sanctuary, and not only is she a fantastic lady, she's also been a very proud mum as well. Now Zizi here in captivity acts as what we call an ambassador species. So she is here to simply raise lots of awareness for the Amur leopard out in the wild, and she's also acted as a breeder for her endangered species protection program. So she's had actually 2 litters of cubs since being with us here at the Big Cat Sanctuary, all of which have gone on to have cubs of their own, and she's now actually a proud great grandma. So she's one of our absolute stars here at the Big Cat Sanctuary.
Amazing. And how come it is so important for cats like Zizi to be a part of the breeding program and to have cubs herself?
So a really important part of breeding these guys in captivity isn't just for education, it's to make sure we've got a little bit of a backup plan. So what you will actually start to see in the wild, when populations of animals start to drop too low, they actually can't repopulate their natural habitat without some level of inbreeding occurring in their wild counterparts, simply because there's not enough genetic diversity. That's where cats like Zizi come in. We've got a really nice, clean, healthy population in captivity that we can breed as a little bit of the reserve, so that a worst case scenario should happen, we can actually send some nice fresh genetics out into the wild later on to help re-diversify and help them rebuild.
Zizi seems like a bit like a feisty lady. Is that what she's usually like, or is it because food is around?
So Zizi is absolutely one of our more fiery ladies of sight. She's got herself the personality for being just this, bless her heart. And that's going to be, of course, because there is food involved. This is also anticipatory, it's excitement, but she's also a leopard. Now leopards out in the wild are not what we call an apex predator. So whilst they are a predator, they are not top of the food chain. There's always something bigger than they are, whether that be tigers, bears, lions. So they've actually evolved to have a little bit more oomph to them, and that is designed to actually ward off those larger predators, to make them seem bigger and more scary to something like a lion or a tiger, so that should they come and try and steal food or become a threat to them, they can do their best to scare them away.
Oh, amazing.
It's lovely to hear her vocalisations there, and I think one of the most striking parts of the leopard is their coat, isn't it? And I think quite a lot of people get confused between jaguars and leopards.
Yes, they absolutely do. So jaguars, leopards, cheetahs, all 3 of those spotty cats that we know and love, all do actually look very similar. But there's a couple of different ways that we can actually tell the difference. Now, cheetahs have spots like a Dalmatian, for example. So just plain dots like what you can see on Zizi's face just here. Leopards have rosettes, so they are the round circles that you can see on the rest of her body. And jaguars actually have spots inside of those rosettes, so jaguars have both. Now leopards as well are known for being slightly short, and they're quite slim as well. So they're not actually big and stocky like a jaguar, or really tall and skinny like a cheetah. They're somewhere in between. And they've also got that really lovely long tail that's going to help them stay really nice and balanced while they're up in the treetops in the wild. So leopards as a whole, they're not quite as big and stocky as the jaguar. They're not as skinny and light as the cheetah. They are somewhere perfectly in between. Now, quite a fun adaptation of the leopard as a whole as well is these guys have actually evolved to have slightly bigger shoulder blades in relation to body size of any cat on the planet, and this actually gives them immense upper body strength. Now we all know that leopards are the cats we see up in the treetops. They're the ones that will take their prey up into the canopies to keep it nice and safe from those bigger predators, and the way that they're actually able to do that is because those larger shoulder blades actually have more muscles around it, and it gives them better upper body strength than those other cats. So Zizi here weighs in at around 50 kilos, which is quite a good weight for a female Amur leopard. They are a slightly larger of the leopard subspecies, that she could take prey up to 2.5 times her own body weight up into the treetops very easily. So it's designed to give them that upper hand to help them get away from those bigger predators very quickly and keep their meals nice and safe as well. So they're absolutely incredible cats. We're very happy and proud to have Zizi here as a brilliant ambassador for their species as well. And there's a fingers crossed, we may well try and breed her again later on down the line. We have had a very handsome chappie arrive for her, so fingers crossed she'll be a proud mum for the 3rd time running too.
Amazing. Well, she is being very vocal this morning.
This is her basically saying, have you got any more food for
Yeah,
me?
any more, otherwise I'm going to leave you. Well, she's an incredible older lady here at the sanctuary. We're going to show you some more girls that we have here for International Women's Month.
We're all finished, lovely lady.
All done. Brilliant. Now, who are we going to head off and see now, Abby?
I think it would be quite nice if we perhaps go and see some of our jaguars.
Yeah, fantastic.
Because we've got 2 very formidable jaguar ladies that I'm sure would quite appreciate taking a treat this morning.
And like you said earlier, we'll be able to see the difference between leopards and jaguars now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So let's go and have a little look, shall we? And it's a very peaceful day, but a little bit wet this morning. A little bit drizzle, hence why we're all wrapped up nice and warm. Now, if you are interested in the hats that me and Abby are both wearing, we have started up our TikTok shop, so you'll be able to see that on our front page. You'll be able to see all the merchandise that we are selling. We've got hats, scarves, mugs, coasters, all things like that. So if it's something you're interested in, check that out. We're going to be adding more merchandise to it. You'll be able to see all the fantastic stuff that we do sell here if you are unable to visit. Now, it is very peaceful this morning. We haven't got any guests yet, but here at the sanctuary, we don't have daily visitors like normal places that you may visit. Instead, we do private experiences, but we also have got our open days coming up. That's a large event, 5 days a year. We do it every year, and it's a great way to see all of our cats and also learn about why we fundraise and why you should visit. So check that out. You'll see that all on our website. Now I can see a black jaguar just ahead, and who may this be, Abby?
So up ahead we have Athena. So Athena is another one of our slightly older ladies here at the sanctuary, but she is arguably one of our most formidable residents. Now, she will come over and say hello, but Athena here likes to make a little bit of a dramatic entrance. So she knows I've got some food for her, but she likes to keep us waiting for a minute or two before she actually comes over. This is simply because usually when we do these sorts of things with guests, we've got a little bit of a health and safety talk to do as we do it. Now, jaguars, arguably, are one of the most intelligent of all of the big cat species. So Athena is well aware that normally I've got health and safety to do. So she likes to give me a couple of minutes to get that done, and then she stalks her way over. Of course, where I'm doing it, I don't have health and safety to do. So we'll just let her know that we're ready. Athena! And hopefully she'll make her way over. Athena! So you can just about see her sitting in that doorway there. Now, being a black jaguar, she does naturally camouflage in with those shadows. Here she comes. So quite often when she's sat in there, the best we can see of her normally is a little beady pair of yellow eyes peering our way, which naturally can be a little bit unnerving.
A very intense stare that she gives.
Very, very intense stare. Now, Athena here is 18 years old, so she is another one of our slightly older residents. Now, in captivity, your big cat species can quite comfortably make it into their late teens, early 20s. So being 18 years old, Athena is into her twilight years now, but bearing in mind, no one's told her that. She doesn't act like she's in her twilight years in the slightest. Now, you'll see probably straight away, she's nowhere near as vocal as Zizi that we just saw. And this is simply because jaguars out in the wild are, in fact, the apex predator. And Athena here knows I'm going to give her the food regardless of whether it takes me 2 minutes to give her the next piece or whether it takes me 2 seconds. So she's very patient. As you can see, she's just sat here minding her own business as we crack on. So Athena actually came to us from another collection in Croatia, and so she was actually initially going to breed with a very handsome male that we had called Aries at the time. Now, when it comes to breeding these cats in captivity, as I mentioned, as part of those breeding programs, all of the pairings are actually done based on good genetics. So we want them to be really great, fantastic genetic pairs so that we can make new genetic lines later on down the line as well. And of course, have the healthiest cats possible. However, that doesn't necessarily take into account personality. So Athena and Aries, whilst initial introductions were fairly positive, they did actually decide it wasn't going to be a match made in heaven. Anyone that's watching that knows their Greek mythology will know Athena and Aries were both gods of war, so it may well have never been meant to be in the first place. So we just decided to retire them both and have them as ambassadors. And Athena has outlived Aries quite comfortably. He's unfortunately no longer with us, but as you can see, Athena here is still going strong. Now, those of you that of course are Jaguar lovers out there may well know that normally Jaguars are a beautiful golden colour, like Zizi, the Amur leopard that we just met. And naturally, the golden coloration of Jaguar actually takes up 90% of the population, so it is the colour that you will see much more regularly. However, about 10% of the population are this lovely black colour that you see on Athena, and this actually comes from a genetic mutation called melanism. So it's an overproduction of melanin, which is what makes us all nice and tan when we go and sit out in the sun, and it turns all of the pigment in their skin a lot darker, and it gives them this black coloration. Now, if you look very closely, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it on Athena here. She has got a very dark coat, but you can in fact still see the beautiful rosettes that golden Jaguars have. It is just much harder to, so you might just be able to make out some of those lovely spots on her face just there. Now, in the wild, this is actually the most dominant genetic. So even though only about 10% of the population display this black colour, it does present itself as a dominant gene in Jaguars. So if you were to breed a gold and a black Jaguar together, you would actually get a black cub, potentially a whole black litter. Now, if both golden parents are carriers of this genetic mutation, they can produce black offspring. So it's something that will naturally occur in the wild. It does not affect their survival rate. Now, this cat being native to Central and South America, living in quite thick, dense rainforests, swamplands as well on the odd occasion, you can imagine that a black cat is going to camouflage very, very well. Now, pair that with this cat usually hunting sort of dusk and dawn, overnight. A black cat, you're never going to find them. So it's actually an incredible asset to them when they're hunting out in the wild. Hello, lovely. So Athena has got the reputation of one of our most formidable ladies, so it matches up quite well for the theme of today's TikTok live.
Oh, absolutely. She's definitely one of the feisty and most intelligent cats we have on site, testing all of our keepers.
So what we quite often do with these cats as well is we offer them showing us a little bit of that more fiery side just there, is we actually offer them what we call enrichment. So it's just a little something to help keep the cats more mentally stimulated, and Jaguars being that little bit more intelligent, we do have to think a little bit outside of the box. So it's actually quite enriching for us as keepers as well, trying to keep these guys entertained. So naturally we sometimes give them a bit more enrichment as well. We might pop over once a day or a fair few times a week to give them a little bit more something new and interactive.
And with Jaguars, how much do they eat, or how much do you feed them whilst in captivity?
So out in the wild, Jaguars and all of your big cat species generally are what we call a gourd feeder. So they'll actually go out and hunt something really nice and big, eat as much of it as they possibly can, and they will then essentially go into a bit of a food coma. So they'll sleep it off, and they will then go out and hunt again when they're ready. So someone like Athena here actually may only hunt once a week out in the wild, if that's all she needs to keep herself sustained. So we don't feed our big cat species every single day here at the sanctuary because they simply don't need to eat every day. That's not how their metabolism works. So we feed them 3 times a week. Now Athena here gets anywhere between 2 and 3 kilograms of food 3 times a week. So it's quite a nice rota that keeps their metabolism still kind of working as it should, but it's not too regularly. And we of course don't need to leave her a week without food here in captivity. So 3 times a week also keeps that side of it healthy too. So out in the wild, the Jaguar will have lots of different prey species. So there have been known out in the wild to have over 80 different prey species as a whole. So they're not fussy. They are very much the apex predator of their natural environment. And I won't spoil too much because of course we have got her next door neighbour to go and see in a minute as well. So I'll touch a little bit more on some of the more Jaguar based facts as we get round to see her. I don't want to spoil everything with lovely Athena here. But this is normally where we can find Athena day to day. She likes to kind of sit up on a nice high perch, watch the rest of the sanctuary go by, and if she feels like there might be a tasty snack or so in it for her, she'll often come and see what we're up to. So jaguars out in the wild, you'll quite often see them hanging around up in the canopies as well. Now they're not necessarily going to take their food up into the canopies, something like a leopard would, for example. However, they're actually fairly comfortable hunting up in the treetops. So it does mean that being on a nice high perch like this is still somewhere that you'll see the jaguars residing in captivity. Hence why she's got like this lovely lower kind of ground floor, and then we've given her a second story in her enclosure as well, where she can utilise a little bit more of that natural behaviour. So, should I find Sophia?
I think we should. So Sophia is what we say, the golden jaguar. And Abby, how about you tell us a little bit about Sophia and the difference between personalities and looks?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sophia, as Emma mentioned, is one of our golden jaguars, and she is arguably probably the favourite lady for most of us keepers here at the Big Cat Sanctuary. She's absolutely stunning. Sophia, you gonna come out? Come on, honey. Sophia here has actually got the record of oldest cat on site. So she's actually 20 years old. She's doing very, very well for her age. And we'll see if we can encourage her out of bed this morning. So, come on. So you can just about see her in there. What we can do, if she doesn't want to come out, is we can take a little venture inside the house there, and she'll just come over to the door. It might be that she's having a nice cosy lie-in this morning and she doesn't particularly fancy coming out and about in the rain. So
exactly, it has been rather wet outside, so she's nice and cosy indoors, so we'll pay her a little visit. And like Abby said, she is an older lady, so she probably doesn't want to get out ever so fast out here, so we'll go and see her indoors.
Absolutely, and we also provide all of our older cats with heaters as well in the winter months, so I can't say I blame her for wanting to stay tucked up in bed this morning. So we'll come on in, guys. Oh, thank you, Emma. Now, Sophia, as I say, she's got the title of oldest cat here at the sanctuary at 20, but she is actually the oldest jaguar in the UK, and we believe she's the second oldest jaguar in Europe. So she's actually doing incredibly well. Now, Sophia here is a retired breeding female from a collection called Chester Zoo. And so she was actually a breeder over there for a short period of time, and unfortunately, she didn't have a huge amount of success, bless her heart. So it was decided that she would retire here to the Big Cat Sanctuary back in 2016, and she has been, alongside Athena, one of our most feisty residents ever since. Hey, what have we got here? Now, a little bit like Athena, no one's necessarily told Sophia she's 20 years old, but rather than being a little bit more in your face, like say Zizi is, she's obviously a lot more vocal, and of course Athena gave us that little snarl there. Sophia tends to be more of the quiet side. Now, she doesn't ever really make a huge amount of noise, but she'll definitely let you know when she's not best impressed with you. So she's not the most polite of cats, but that's kind of what gives Sophia her charm. Now, she is, as Emma said, your golden jaguar, so this is the most common coloration, and you can probably see actually just on her back there, you can see those spots inside of those rosettes that I mentioned earlier. Now, alongside these spots inside the rosettes, you will also see that jaguars are actually much bigger and stockier than leopards. And this comes from the fact that this is actually the third largest cat species on the planet. And they also tend to be, we like to nickname them the bodybuilder of the cat family here at the Big Cat Sanctuary. So they're fantastic all-rounders. I've mentioned already that they are fairly comfortable hunting up in the treetops, things like primates, sloths, even birds or anacondas that are going to be up in the trees. On land, these guys have got a running speed of around 50 miles per hour, and they will hunt incredibly large land mammals such as tapir, capybara, even other cat species, sometimes such as puma, will fall into conflict with these guys in the wild. You can come over for a little bit of food. And just in case any of you guys thought you might be safe in the water, they're also what we call semi-aquatic, so they're incredibly comfortable. Come on then. in the water as well. They've got partially webbed feet, and that allows them to be very strong swimmers. And so they will hunt underwater on a regular basis, and they will even hunt things such as caiman, which are a large species of crocodile, and they will win. And we all know that crocodiles and alligators tend to be top of the food chain where water is concerned. And a lot of that success actually comes from the jaw pressure that the jaguar have. Now, these guys have the strongest relative bite force of any cat on the planet, so they are absolutely formidable predators. And I will put that into perspective for everybody watching. So as humans, we have around 130 pounds of pressure per square inch in our jaw. So for what we actually need it for, that's very, very good. Now, your lions and your tigers, the two largest cat species in the world, actually have anywhere between 800 and 1,000 pounds of pressure per square inch in their jaw. So that's almost 10 times what we have. Now, the jaguar are known to have anywhere between 1,600 and 2,000 pounds of pressure per square inch in their jaw. So that is double what the lions and the tigers have. And that is what gives them that incredible upper hand against all the other predators that are going to be in Central and South America alongside them, and all of the prey species that they're going to hunt in the wild as well.
Incredible. Now, if you do have any questions about jaguars or any cats, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Harry can read them all out.
Now, with all of our cats that are on the older side, like the ladies that we've met so far, we actually give them a supplement called Flexidin. And it's actually designed for horses, but it actually has exactly the same effect on these guys as well. But it's a little bit like glucosamine, so it helps to keep them a little bit more supple as they get into their older years. And of course, our older cats, like Sophia being 20 years old, are what we call high priority here on site. Now, of course, we give all of the cats here at the sanctuary the best care we possibly can, but with the older ones, like lovely Sophia, we do of course take into account that we may start to see some health problems and stuff like that crop up as she starts to get a little bit older. So we actually have sort of daily health checks for Sophia here, and she's also on some extra little supplements to keep her supported as she gets a little bit older. And getting those supplements into her can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. Now, of course, anyone that's got domestic cats at home, or even dogs as well, wouldn't actually know that getting them to take tablets is usually quite a challenge, and it's no exception for these guys as well. They know straight away if we put something in their food. So actually, sometimes she likes to keep us trying for a good half an hour before we actually can manage to get her supplements into her. So she's a very smart lady. She's full of personality, and she's a very, very big favourite for a lot of us here on the team. She's not letting anyone down as far as personality goes. As far as health goes, no one's told her she's 20, and we don't intend to be the ones to tell her that either. But most days, this is where you'll find her.
Yeah, incredible ambassador, an incredible age. We couldn't be more proud.
Just a couple of comments come in now, Abby, just as we're leaving. Just sort of, what is the average sort of life expectancy of a jaguar?
So
I know we touched on it earlier.
Yeah, so a lot of your big cat species will sort of make it into their late teens, early 20s. But we have actually seen in captivity that jaguars seem to be the ones that actually make it into their early 20s a little bit more often than your lions and your tigers. Now, we don't necessarily know why. It could, after you guys, it potentially have something to do with how successful this cat is out in the wild. But to be honest, so far, as we say, all of our slightly older female jaguars like Athena and Sophia aren't showing any signs of slowing down. So we're not entirely sure why they seem to last a little bit longer than your other big cats, but we're not complaining. There we are. So, next up on the list, we have a very lovely, slightly smaller resident here at the Big Cat Sanctuary, and her name is Petra. Now, Petra is our Eurasian lynx. So the Eurasian lynx are a small cat species, as we say, and they are actually the largest of all the lynx species worldwide. So they're going to be native to mainland Europe and Asia, and into some small parts of Russia as well, so incredibly colder climates too. And so you'll often see that those guys are the largest. You will then actually have your Iberian lynx throughout southern Spain and Portugal. You will have your Canada lynx, as the name might suggest, throughout Canada. And you'll then have the bobcat, which is the smallest of them all across America. So we've got lovely Petra as our Eurasian lynx, and she is an absolutely beautiful ambassador cat. And Petra here actually has a slightly different background to some of our other cats. She's not a breeder. Now, that's simply because the Eurasian lynx in the wild are actually doing comfortably well in pretty much every place you'll find them. So we're not worried about their population number at all. But Petra's actually come to us as a retired actress. So she spent a little bit of time in the animal acting industry, and she was initially destined to star in a series of TV shows and adverts. And she just decided fairly early on, actually, show business wasn't quite the industry she wanted to work in. She had an argument with her manager and she was very promptly fired. Now, that was nothing too severe before any of you start worrying, but she did make her point fairly quickly. Now, it looks like Petra here is chowing down on her breakfast for today. Now, all of our small cat species naturally have a much quicker metabolism than the big cats. So they will actually only, they will generally hunt little and often rather than in the big bulk meals that you'll see with your big cat species. So we feed them anywhere from once a day to twice a day. And so we'll often give them breakfast and dinner, or in today's case, we've given Petra a slightly bigger meal in the form of a nice rabbit for her this morning. So here she is, as you can see, incredibly beautiful little lady. And this is what we call a feed pole. So it's something that we use to give the cats a little bit more physical stimulation. Now, here in the UK, it's illegal for us to feed these animals live food, so we do have to get a little bit creative about how we want to exercise these cats on a day-to-day basis. But Petra here is another one of our older ladies here at the sanctuary. All of our formidable, impressive ladies at the sanctuary, they're all actually in their later stages. So Petra is 19 and she's actually been living here at the Big Cat Sanctuary for around 15 years now. So she's been part of the family for a very, very long time, and we couldn't be happier to have her here. Now, she absolutely took some of the more diva-ish tendencies from animal acting and brought those here to the sanctuary as well. She tends to be one of our fussiest ladies of sight when it comes to food. She much prefers to actually decide what she wants to eat rather than us decide what she's going to eat for the day. She has incredibly expensive taste when it comes to some of the perfumes, aftershaves, herbs and spices, essential oils that we might give the cats as a more enrichment side of it in order to help them display some of their more natural behaviours. Her particular favourite recently has been a Prada that we were donated from one of our fantastic supporters, and so that was a firm favourite for her. She likes expensive stuff. She's got a bit of expensive taste.
You don't blame her, she's a fancy lady.
She's a very fancy lady.
Fancy smell.
Absolutely.
So you say that this is good exercise, but it seems like she's found a little hack. So instead of pulling it down, she's just comfortably sitting whilst eating.
Absolutely, and this is a slightly more lazy way of doing it. Now, she might actually be about to give it. No, she's not. I told you right. She's still going to cheat. But what it's designed to do is get them pulling and tugging, working their nice back leg muscles as well. The lynx as a whole actually have incredibly long hind legs, and they are going to act as fantastic almost springboards for them. So these guys have about a 6 to 7 foot vertical jump from a standstill, and they have been known out in the wild to actually hunt low flying birds such as pheasant, and so having really long hind powerful legs helps them to actually reach those heights. And you might also be able to see as she's sitting down that she's got a tiny little tail, and that's what we call
out of proportion. It's tiny compared to her legs and everything. Oh, there you go, she's standing up a little bit.
There we go. So yeah, incredibly small. Now, that's not actually been docked in any way. Lynx over the years have evolved to have a much smaller, shorter tail. So it's meant to be that short. It's what we call the bobtail. It's where we actually got the term bobcat, and it's designed to basically be there for show. Now, she wiggles it and she wags it around sometimes as well, so it could potentially help them with communication. But what you'll normally see, that any cat that normally hunts things like low flying bird will often have quite a short tail, because it's actually extra weight they don't need when it comes to jumping nice and high up in the air. And probably the most famous feature of the lynx species as a whole are lovely ear tufts that they've got on top of their ears. Now Petras are very thin and wispy as she gets a little bit older, but they are quite often very thick and very prominent, and we suspect it's almost like an extension to the whisker, so we believe it's to help them determine what's going on up above their heads when it comes to going out and hunting birds. So whether that's wind direction, or it might even be to help them figure out whether or not they actually can jump up there as well. So whilst we don't know for sure, they have kept them over the millions of years of evolution that we have seen lynx traits in cat species as a whole, so they're obviously important. We just, as people, haven't quite figured it out yet. So the best we can do is just take an educated guess based on behaviours we see out in the wild and here in captivity. Excuse the noise that's going on. We are doing a bit of work around site. We are improving all of our facilities for our cats and also pathways for our humans as well. So we think about cats and humans here at the sanctuary. But what we might do, we might leave Petra to enjoy her food now. She's tucking in, well she was, that noise did distract her a little bit, but I'm sure she's going to chow down again. But thank you for watching, and thank you Abby for telling us all about the cats. My pleasure, guys.
Hope you guys all learnt a lot, and stay tuned for next time. Thank you, bye.